Welcome everybody to this presentation. We would like to introduce you to the PFE Management Dashboard, a program that will change the way you work. Firstly, I will present what an elementary function pilot does at Renault. At Renault, an elementary function pilot serial life, PFE VS from French, Pilote Fonction Élémentaire Vie Série from now on, manages a group of parts in the commercial life of an engine or a vehicle. This management starts when the project phase is over until the end of mass production. In serial life, which can last about a decade, the PFE must coordinate different modifications that impact their group of parts. Every time that there is a part modification, the PFE is in charge of managing a mini project. This will have clear milestones defined, and it can last from some months to years. Every modification has the quality procedure at Renault with the following milestones. In conclusion, the PFE VS daily work consists of managing several mini projects at the same time. These mini projects can be very different due to their different status advancement. They will need to satisfy every requirement to get a milestone passed. The PFE is the gears which moves and coordinates every department in the engineering bureau at Renault. They must define every requirement to guarantee the fulfillment of processes and quality. The PFE must report at every step to the project leader. Finally, the PFE must also manage all the activities between the bureau at Renault and the supplier. Moreover, we have to take into account that all of this management must be done in relation to the plan that we have defined when the project started. We also have to take into account that the PFE has a workload of about 15 to 25 modifications at the same time, which need to be managed in parallel and set the priority among them. What do we propose? The PFE Management Dashboard tool. The PFE Management Dashboard tool helps to manage the PFE's workload. They will have all the information needed about every single topic in a clear and concise way. With this tool, you can easily know the next step to take or the pending actions in one of the modifications. For this, we start with the blank form, which is divided in 4 important areas: Information and Stakeholders area, Management area, Planning, Actions Dashboard. Moreover, between zones 2 and 3, you can find a free zone so every PFE can add some information that they will find useful for their modifications. Blank Form Part 1, Information and Stakeholders area. In this area, you can find a heading with the number and title of the modification. There is also a category classification: cost down, quality, risk associated, priority, and stakeholders. For example, project leader, purchase, designer, plant quality. Every section in yellow must be completed by the user. When the completion is finished, the yellow color will disappear. The stakeholders' names can be easily chosen from a pull-down menu, which is linked to a customizable database. Furthermore, there is a section in which you can find all the economic information about the modification, such as cost down, internal or supplier investments, volumes impacted at assembly plants, etc. Finally, in this zone, we also have a section to indicate the current reference and the new one, with a choice of new reference to be created, only index evolution, or same reference after modification. There's the option of having several references in the same modification if needed. Blank Form Part 2, Management area. This part of the PFE Management Dashboard consists of a simple but very functional area in which we can manage the different demands from both engine and vehicle plants. You can also find a zone to check the status with the partners, Nissan and Daimler, and a description of the validation plan required. Blank Form Part 3, Planning. In this zone, we have 2 different zones. Let's start at the second one so we can understand the first. 3B, Gantt diagram planning. It's a simple Gantt diagram with different stages matching the Renault milestones. As we are working with Excel, if there is a change in the planning, we will just have to select the milestones and move to some weeks later or before. Every milestone or documentation needed is codified in acronyms. We can add or remove the milestones depending on what's required. The ongoing week is highlighted, as you can see, so we have a quick idea of where we are and the next step to take. When a milestone is achieved, the user must change the cell green. The macros will read this color and understand that the milestone has been passed. 3A. Planning with dates and official planning. In the upper row, we have the Renault milestones in blue. Before them, you can find every document you need to succeed in this target. For example, we cannot get our contract milestone passed if we don't have an answer for the DFC and DCS, if the F4 is not signed, or if Comotive vehicle is not passed. The same with the PSW. We will not get it passed if we haven't done our fitability test, FIT, or if we don't have the SIANPQP documented. Below, there is an area divided in two with a dotted line. Above this line, we will have the current planning reflected in our Gantt diagram, but this one will be with the week date format. The color will be green if the action is already done and yellow if it is not. Right below this row, we have the translation from week format to date format, in day, month, and year. The Gantt diagram reading is done after clicking on Planning Update. Below the dotted line, we can find the official planning. This is a Renault tool called GPS. This is the planning that the project leader takes into account. This planning is automatically imported thanks to a macro. This macro is executed when clicking on the GPS Update button. The tool that we have developed warns us with a simple color code if our project is delayed in comparison to the GPS, which is the official planning. In this example, we can clearly see that officially the PSW is delayed, in red. Even if we take a quick look, we will be able to see that this delay is due to the fact that the workability trial hasn't been done on time, and the démarche ANPQP hasn't been documented either, as they are not in green. Furthermore, we have an orange alert indicating a change in relation to the official planning. A start of production, SOP, was expected by July 15th. However, we have received information about our supplier saying that everything can be ready 1 week before, in July 6th. After changing the planning in the Gantt diagram, we will update the planning on the upper part, and the PFE Management Dashboard tool will warn us about this deviation. After speaking with the planning responsible and with the project leader, they will accept the new planning. On Monday, the GPS will be updated, the PFE Management Dashboard tool will read it, and there will no longer be the orange warning indicating the deviation in relation to the official planning. Blank Form Part 4, Actions Dashboard. The last thing you can find in the blank form is the Actions Dashboard. Thanks to a macro called New Action, the PFE will be able to add any task that they have to do to manage the whole modification. The macro will ask us for the person in charge of the modification and when the deadline is. Afterwards, we will be able to create an action, for example, ask advice to the expert about the validation planning, talk to the supplier about the date that they will have the parts for the trials ready, ask the designer to validate the drawings, launch a meeting with the assembly engine plant to know the risks of the new modification in process terms, etc. After creating the new action, the status of the action will be automatically TBD, to be done. The color of this TBD will be yellow if the expected date is in the future, and red if the date has already passed. With this color code, the user will be alerted if one action should have already been done. After completing the action, we will be able to change it to OK and green. This change can be easily done thanks to a macro launched with a shortcut. We also have an intermediate action between TBD and OK. This is TBA, to be answered. This status can be useful in an example like this. The PFE needs to have a material analysis about a new material that is going to be used in the new part. The PFE must gather all the information and send it to the material analyst so that they can give an opinion about this new material. As a consequence, when the PFE manages to gather all the information and send it to the responsible person, they will be able to change the status to TBA with another shortcut in the program. We could change the deadline if the responsible person says so after creating the action. At every moment, we can also delete an action we don't want to appear anymore. For instance, an action that has been completed a long time ago and we don't want to have on the dashboard. Finally, the new action macro gives us the chance to indicate a category of the action. It's not a compulsory input, you can leave it empty if you want, but there is huge potential with this category. In our case, we have decided that if we tap I, informative action, the line that will be generated will not be an action, therefore it's without a deadline. In other words, it's only information we want to know about the modification. For example, an informative action could be, supplier is on holidays in calendar week 1631. Another case that we wanted to differentiate is the priority action. If we tap P, the action will be a priority one, and we will see it later that it will be easier to handle. PFE Management Dashboard as a general tool. What we want with our PFE Management Dashboard is that every PFE can have their whole list of topics ongoing. Every modification would have a sheet with its info part, planning, and actions dashboard. Every time that the PFE works in a topic, they will have to update the sheet. They will have to change the milestone green, ask for documents which will be pending, do the actions of the dashboard, etc. The potential for our tool is that apart from the individual sheets for every modification, we also have two more sheets regrouping all the information. Resume. There is a table in which you can see every single modification with hyperlinks to their individual sheet. From this resume sheet, you can also manage the creation and closure of topics. The macros in charge of doing these two actions are called New QMX and Close QMX. This sheet also has pull-down menus to quickly check every person impacted or the GPS, official planning, for the whole of the modifications. As we have also added filters, you can see the different topics impacting one supplier, for example. This is really useful if you have a meeting with this supplier and you want to know exactly the things that are related to it. The same idea can be used for a designer, a buyer, a project leader, etc. This part of the PFE Management Dashboard also shows us whenever we have an alert related to the official planning. There has been a change that must be communicated to the project leader. Until we do it, the alert will be there warning us. We also have an alert if the plant hasn't given their opinion about the modification, DFC. Finally, in the alert area, we have an indicator of the next milestone to be taken, to-do list. This sheet represents the most important added value of our PFE Management Dashboard. This sheet will allow the PFE to have every single action that they must do every week on one screen only. There will also be the delayed actions. The to-do list macro looks over every modification and it keeps the ones with a TBD or a TBA status. Afterwards, the macro will show a list of every action ordered by deadline and with a hyperlink to the modification sheet. When we press the Generate To-Do List button, the macro asks us how many weeks we want to show in our to-do list. For instance, if we press 2, the macro will show us the actions delayed, the actions for the current week, and the actions for the next 2 weeks. If we press 0, we will only see the actions delayed and the ones for the current week. Finally, if we don't press anything, the macro will show every single action in TBD or TBA status. In the to-do list, you will not see actions already done nor informative ones. If we have decided that one action is a priority one, you will see an orange warning next to the action in the first column. Once an action is done, we will change the status in the individual sheet. We can check that the action has disappeared from the to-do list if we regenerate it. On this sheet, you can also find two other buttons to execute the Global Planning Update and the Global GPS Update. They will update the planning created by us and the official planning of every modification that we have. In our case, this tool is very useful on Mondays when the official planning is updated by the project leader. With one click, we can update every single modification that we have ongoing. Finally, on this sheet, there is the Backup Copy button. When clicking this, an automatic backup copy is created, which is a key application due to the amount of important information that we can gather in the PFE management dashboard. Moreover, when the last backup copy has been made more than 1 week ago, the PFE management dashboard changes the letters red so we don't forget to do it. Documentation required. Another advantage of having all the information classified in specific cells is that it is very easy for us to fetch it now and use it to fill in documents we need for each milestone. For example, DCS, QCD, design note. We have created an independent Excel file in which every sheet is one of our formats. The main sheet, input, has the same design as our blank form. And from that input sheet, you can import via macro all the information of any modification on your PFE management dashboard. Then, as each field of each sheet is linked to the input sheet, every format will be automatically filled in. There are a few specific fields that the user needs to fill in on their own, but they are emphasized in red and are very easy to see. Even they can be chosen from a database. Some of these documents need to be sent to different people or uploaded in our system, and it is not practical to send the whole Excel file. That's why we have also implemented a macro which allows the PFE to create an individual, not linked to any database, clean copy of every format. If there is some of the non-automatic fields that we have forgotten to fill in, the macro alerts us to how many of these fields must still be completed. Besides, this new file has the good print parameters by default: A4, A3, single or double page, etc., depending on the kind of document we are exporting. Conclusion. The PFE Management Dashboard tool helps a lot with the PFE's modification portfolio in an easy way, by inserting only a few inputs by the user. Some of the main advantages are: tasks are not forgotten or delayed. Actions not done will remain at the top of your to-do list. It's really easy for the PFE to know where we are in a modification and the next step to take. The PFE can manage individual actions, but also a bunch of grouped actions by supplier, purchases, designer notes to be requested, etc. in an easy way thanks to the resume sheet. You can set up alerts, reminders, etc. for the actions to come, for missing documentation, or for deviation in relation to the official planning. Nothing will be forgotten. Moreover, the to-do list sheet is perfect for the day-to-day PFE. We can have every task to do in a week with only a click. As a consequence, the management of these actions is much easier. It's also important to bear in mind that if you have a tool like the PFE Management Dashboard, the transfers are much simpler. It's really easy to show the person who is going to replace you your portfolio and the current status of every modification. They will be able to pilot all the actions to come, even the most important ones, due to the fact that the former PFE can set up some alerts for some of them. However, the main added value of the PFE Management Dashboard is that it's really easy to export the idea to any management post you can imagine. You can customize the program to satisfy client requirements by making only a few small changes. You only need to know the inputs you need in your blank form, and you will change the planning area depending on your requirements. This is not even a day's work, and you will be able to have a powerful management tool for making your life easier.